Chapter 1. The day I went in for surgery to handle my ectopic pregnancy, my hospital form slipped out of my hands and fell to the floor. As I crouched down to look for it, my heart stopped. Across the waiting room, I saw Martin. He wasn't alone. Octavia was with him, holding out her hand with the dramatic flair of someone who knew she was being watched. She had a tiny cut on her finger, barely enough to draw blood, but Martin held her hand carefully, like she was made of porcelain, his full attention on her. So this was why he didn't have time for me. I stayed hidden, unable to look away as Octavia's soft, sugary voice drifted over. "Martin," she said, pouting like a child. "What kind of person gets themselves pregnant before marriage and then has to go through surgery all by themselves?" Her words hit me like a slap across the face. My chest tightened, and I felt my breath catch as I waited for his response. He didn't even hesitate. His voice was calm, flat, completely devoid of emotion. "Probably someone shameless," he said. "Someone no one could ever really love." My stomach sank, and for a moment, I thought I might collapse right there. "Martin, you're so mean." Octavia giggled, her voice dripping with false innocence. "That's so sad to think about." But he just smiled, a soft, indulgent smile I'd never seen before. "You're too kind, Octavia," he said, his tone warm and reassuring. "Don't worry. Something like that will never happen to you. I'll make sure of it." 7 years. 7 years of love, heartbreak, and sacrifices all gone in an instant. It was as if everything we'd shared, every fight, every moment of tenderness, had been erased by those words. Octavia laughed softly, pulling a crumpled piece of paper from her pocket. She glanced around and then casually tossed it into the corner of the room before leaning back into Martin, her face glowing with satisfaction. It wasn't until I snapped back to reality that I realized the paper she'd thrown away was now in my hands. I smoothed it out and blinked down at it. It was my hospital form. Taking a deep breath, I folded it carefully and walked toward the operating room. The surgery didn't take long, but it left me feeling hollow. When I was finally discharged, I called my dad. "Dad," I said, my voice steady but tired. "I've been thinking. I want to come home. Sweetheart," he said, his voice breaking with relief. "You've finally come to your senses. I'll book your ticket right away." "Not yet," I replied. "I need some time to wrap things up here." "Wrap things up? What do you mean?" Before I could explain, a voice behind me made me jump. "What are you wrapping up?" I turned to see Martin standing there, his sudden appearance catching me off guard. "Dad, I'll explain everything when I get home," I said quickly, ending the call. Martin crossed his arms, his gaze sharp. "What's going on?" "Nothing," I said, my tone cold. "I'm just going home for a while. I need to hand over some work before I leave." His eyes narrowed, and for a moment, he looked as though he wanted to say something else. Instead, he sighed. "I've been working in the studio nonstop these past few days," he said, almost as if he owed me an explanation. "That's why I haven't been coming home to sleep." "Okay," I replied, my tone flat. He blinked, clearly taken aback by my indifference. I guess it was strange for him. In the past, whenever he stayed out or didn't come home, I'd always demand an explanation. I'd yell, cry, and push him until he snapped, and we ended up in one of our all-too-familiar Cold Wars. But now, I didn't have the energy to care. Before he could say anything else, a sharp pain shot through my abdomen. I gasped, clutching my stomach, and the glass I'd been holding slipped from my hand. It shattered on the floor, and a shard cut into my palm. Blood began dripping onto the white tile, the red stark against the sterile background. "I'll grab the first aid kit," Martin said, finally looking up from his phone. But as he turned to leave, his phone buzzed. The corners of his mouth lifted into a smile, a real smile, and without another word, he walked to the balcony, shutting the door behind him. Everything's in the usual spot. He called over his shoulder. Take care of it yourself. I stared at the closed door, my injured hand still bleeding, the pain in my chest far worse than the pain in my palm. I patched myself up as best I could, disinfecting the wound with trembling hands. That's when I heard his voice. It was low, soft, and full of warmth, the kind of tone he'd never used with me. Okay. He was saying, his voice barely audible through the glass. I swear, if I ever miss your calls again, I don't know, turn into a giant cockroach or something. A faint laugh floated through the air. Octavia's voice. Ew. No! Cockroaches are disgusting. How about a little kitten instead? Fine, a kitten. Martin said, laughing along with her. But if I get punished, what does Princess Octavia want as her reward? I froze. Once, a long time ago, I'd asked him why he never tried to comfort me when I cried. Why did he never say sweet things to me when I needed reassurance? I'm not good at that kind of thing, he'd said. But now I knew the truth. It wasn't that he couldn't. He just didn't want to. Chapter 2. The dull ache in my abdomen hadn't gone away by the next morning. I decided to call in sick and head to the hospital for a follow-up check. You're not feeling well? Martin asked when I mentioned it. I'll drive you. Let's take your car, mine's in the shop for maintenance. It wasn't like him to offer. Maybe it was guilt, or maybe he just wanted to get it over with, but I didn't care enough to question it. At least I wouldn't have to worry about getting there on my own. But when I got downstairs, Martin was gone. I called him, annoyed, and all he said was, something came up. I had to leave. Just get a cab. Opening the ride-hailing app, I groaned when I saw the waitlist over 100 people ahead of me. Before I could even get an assigned driver, my phone buzzed again. It was Martin. Winona, he said, his tone brisk. Do me a favor. Go to the shop and pick up my car. I'll send you the address. We can swap cars when you get here. It was infuriating, but he wasn't wrong. Driving his car would be faster than waiting for a ride. Still, I couldn't help but feel the weight of the irony. Martin never let me touch his car, not even when we were at our best. I picked it up anyway. As I drove, the pain in my stomach flared again, sharp enough to make me wince. My phone slipped out of my hand and fell beneath the passenger seat. I pulled over to grab it, leaning down to reach under the seat. That's when my fingers brushed against something small and plastic. When I pulled it out, my breath caught. It was a pregnancy test. 2 bright pink lines stared back at me, clear as day. For a moment, I just sat there, staring at it, my thoughts frozen in place. Whose was it? Martin's passenger seat was practically sacred. He never let anyone sit there, claiming it distracted him while driving. I took a picture of the test and then slid it back under the seat. The strangest part. I felt nothing. No anger, no heartbreak, just an eerie calmness, like my emotions had been drained dry. The car reeked of a cloying, unfamiliar perfume, and my stomach churned from the stench. I gripped the steering wheel tighter and focused on the road. All I wanted was to return this car to Martin and be done with it. When I finally arrived at the location he sent, I parked and stayed in the driver's seat for a moment, trying to steady myself. The pain in my stomach hadn't eased, and I was starting to feel lightheaded. As I stepped out of the car, I heard Martin's voice. What took you so long? I told you to hurry up, he said, his tone sharp with annoyance. I ignored him, clutching the car door for balance as a wave of nausea hit me. My face must have been pale because when I looked up, Martin's expression faltered. Are you actually sick? He asked, his irritation giving way to something that almost resembled concern. Before I could answer, a soft sneeze interrupted us. Achoo! I turned to see Octavia stepping out from behind Martin, her cheeks flushed and her body wrapped in a light sweater. Martin's demeanor changed instantly. Without a word, he shrugged off his jacket and draped it over her shoulders, his movements quick and instinctive. What are you doing out here? He asked her, his voice warm and gentle. "It's cold." Octavia pouted. The smell in the other car was making me nauseous. She said, her voice soft and sweet. "I just feel more comfortable in your car." She must have noticed me staring because she glanced my way, her expression innocent but calculated. "Winona doesn't look good," she said, tilting her head. "Is she cold? Martin, maybe you should give her your jacket instead." Before I could say anything, she sneezed again. Then again. "Achoo! Achoo!" Martin immediately reached for her hands, pressing them against the jacket to make sure she didn't take it off. "You can't get cold," he said firmly. "You're not in great health. Besides, Winona's going to the hospital anyway. She can ask the doctor for some medicine while she's there. Now get in the car." He didn't even look at me as he guided Octavia into the passenger seat, the same seat he never let me sit in. Then, without a second glance, he slid into the driver's seat and drove off. Chapter 3. Thankfully, the follow-up at the hospital went smoothly. The doctor gave me a reassuring smile as she handed over my report. "Make sure your family cooks you something nourishing to help you recover," she said gently. "You're still young. There's plenty of time for another chance." Her words lingered in the air, bittersweet but final. Another chance. I nodded, thanked her, and left the hospital. All I could think about now was going home, where I could finally breathe again. When Martin came back that evening, I was in the middle of packing my suitcase. "Are you planning to move your entire wardrobe back home, or is this just a dramatic exit?" he asked, leaning against the doorframe with that familiar, annoyingly smug grin. "It's been a while," I replied simply, not bothering to look up from the clothes I was folding. Something in my tone must have tipped him off because his smirk faded. He stepped closer, blocking my path. "Hey, I'm talking to you," he said sharply. "What's with the attitude? You won't even look at me now?" There was a hint of irritation in his voice, but underneath that, I caught something softer, something almost petulant, like he was sulking. Before, this would have been enough to make me drop everything. I would have been thrilled to see even the smallest sign of him wanting my attention. I'd have apologized, laughed, and done whatever it took to make things right. But now, I didn't have the energy. I just wanted to pack up and leave. This place, for all its clutter, felt empty. Most of the things here didn't belong to me. And yet, cleaning up still took time. "Move," I said flatly, brushing past him. He didn't take it well. "Winona," he snapped, his voice rising. "What's your problem? Why are you acting like this? Did I do something? Or are you just going through menopause or something?" I ignored him and focused on folding the last of my clothes. That only made him angrier. "Is this about the other day?" he continued, his tone sharp with frustration. "Are you mad because I didn't help you with that tiny cut? It was barely a scratch. God, you're not a child, why do you have to be so dramatic?" When I still didn't respond, he pushed further. "Or is it because I didn't take you to the hospital? You're fine now, aren't you? So what the hell are you still upset about?" His words hit the air like stones, but they didn't reach me. I kept packing, stepping around him like he wasn't even there. That seemed to push him over the edge. He grabbed my arm, stopping me in my tracks. "Winona!" he barked, his grip tight, his voice loud enough to echo. For a moment, it seemed like he was about to yell, to unleash whatever anger he'd been holding back. But then his phone buzzed, the familiar chime of a notification. And just like that, the tension broke. His hand loosened and his expression shifted in an instant. The anger drained from his face, replaced by something eager and distracted. He reached into his pocket and tossed something toward me without even looking back. It was a lipstick. "Here," he said casually, his voice suddenly light and dismissive. "You've been looking pale lately. Wear this, it'll give you some color." Then, without waiting for a response, he turned and walked away, already typing on his phone. I stared at the lipstick in my hand. It was from a brand I used to love, a small, niche luxury label I'd bought for myself in the past. But this was nothing more than a freebie, the kind they throw in as a gift when you spend enough. I twisted it open. The shade was bold, bright, and mature, definitely not something Octavia would wear. I placed it on the shelf next to the scented diffuser Martin had bought me once. The diffuser had been my idea. I'd spotted it in a store window and begged him to buy it for me. "If you want something, just ask," he'd said at the time, annoyed. "I'll transfer you the money, and you can buy it yourself. Why make such a big deal out of it?" Over the years, that diffuser and now this lipstick were the only gifts he'd ever given me. Well, those and the matching necklaces he bought when we first started dating. I reached up, my fingers brushing the chain around my neck. His had disappeared long ago, lost, forgotten, or discarded. But I'd kept mine, wearing it like it still meant something. Not anymore. I unclasped it, the chain cooled against my fingers, and tossed it into the drawer, where it landed with a quiet clink. Chapter 4. The company assigned a fresh-faced college graduate to take over my tasks. She was bright-eyed and endlessly curious about everything and everyone in the office. "Winona, is Octavia dating Mr. Landon?" she asked one afternoon, leaning in like she was sharing a juicy secret. Mr. Landon, to the company, that's who Martin was, one of our contracted artists. To me, he was supposed to be my boyfriend. But to avoid any potential gossip, he'd insisted we keep our relationship a secret. Hardly anyone at work knew about us. I mean, I see him driving her to and from work every day. The girl continued, her voice brimming with fascination. They look so close. So, the pregnancy test really was Octavia's. I thought back to the time I'd asked Martin for a ride while my car was in the shop. He'd shot me down immediately, annoyed. "Just call a cab," he'd said curtly. "What if someone sees us? People love to talk, and I can't stand people gossiping about me behind my back." That's how it always was with him, careful, calculated. To keep up appearances, we'd even moved to an apartment far from the office. It meant long commutes for me. Cabs were hard to book, so I often ended up taking the bus and walking the rest of the way. One time, after trudging home with blistered feet, I complained to Martin. "You're so spoiled," he'd said, barely looking up from his phone. "You're not a kid anymore. Learn to handle things yourself." But Octavia, she lived close to the office. "See? That's what I mean," the girl said, oblivious to my thoughts. "Mr. Landon spoils her so much." She didn't wait for me to respond, already diving into another story. "Yesterday, I overheard Octavia calling him and saying she was craving apple pie. And guess what? Just now, I saw him deliver them to her. Isn't that the sweetest thing? I'm so jealous." My hand froze mid-motion, and the stack of papers I was holding slipped from my grip, scattering across the floor with a loud crash. The girl jumped, startled. "Winona, are you okay?" "I'm fine," I said quickly, forcing a tight smile. "I just need to step out for a moment." This morning, before heading to work, Martin had casually mentioned he was craving apple pie. I'd thought about just picking one up from the bakery, but no, he'd insisted I make it myself. "It's not the same if you don't make it," he'd said like it was the most obvious thing in the world. Apple pie was the first thing I'd ever baked for him. Back then, I'd spent hours peeling apples, perfecting the crust, and nervously waiting to see his reaction. This morning, I'd done the same, pouring my heart into making it one last time. If nothing else, I wanted to end this chapter of my life with a shred of grace. But now, standing in the office kitchen, I saw the pie I'd packed for him. The box was shoved to the side of the counter, untouched. The lid was still closed, the pie wrapped in foil just as I'd left it. I picked it up, staring at the carefully crimped edges of the crust, my stomach twisting into knots. "Winona, what are you doing?" Chapter 5. I turned around to see Martin and Octavia standing there. In Octavia's hand was a bracelet, no doubt from the same brand as the lipstick he'd given me. Octavia spotted the bento box in my hand and giggled awkwardly, twisting a strand of hair around her finger. "Oh, sorry," she said, flashing an apologetic smile. "Martin, it was too sweet for me. I couldn't eat it. But I didn't mean to waste it." I took a step forward, but Martin immediately moved to block me, his arm protectively outstretched in front of her. "Winona," he said firmly, his tone already defensive. "What are you doing? It's just a dish, why are you overreacting?" Octavia pouted and playfully tapped Martin on the arm. "Martin, it's your fault," she said, her tone light and teasing. "I only joked that I wanted to try something Winona made. I didn't think you'd actually make her do it. Now she's mad at me." She turned to me with wide, innocent eyes. "I'm so sorry, Winona. It's all Martin's fault for not telling me. You're not mad at me, are you?" I didn't answer. Octavia tugged on Martin's sleeve, her voice softening even further. "Martin, do you think Winona's mad at me?" Martin sighed and reached out to pat her head, his voice dropping into a soothing tone. "Of course not. It's just a dish. You don't like sweet things, so I'll take you somewhere else later, okay?" Octavia's face lit up, and she grabbed the corner of his shirt, swaying back and forth like a child. "Oh, by the way, Martin, the little cartoon girl on this bento box lid looks so much like Winona. Can you draw one for me too?" Martin glanced at me, his expression uneasy. He'd once promised me he'd never draw anyone else's portrait in his cartoon style. But Octavia didn't care. When Martin didn't respond, she turned to me, her voice turning sweet again. "Winona, please? Can you convince Martin to draw one for me? Pretty please?" Her eyes flicked back to the bento box in my hand. "Wait, are you mad because I threw out the bento box? I'm really sorry. Don't be mad, okay?" Her voice trembled, and she leaned toward Martin, adding a dramatic sniffle for effect. "Winona's really mad at me, isn't she, Martin? You have to help me fix this." At the first sign of tears, Martin's tone shifted completely. "It's just an old bento box," he said sharply, turning to me. "Why are you making such a big deal out of it? If it's that important, I'll buy you a new one." I didn't say a word. Slowly, I tossed the bento box back into the trash can. The lid snapped shut with a hollow thud. "There's no need," I said quietly, turning to leave. "It's old. I should have thrown it out a long time ago." Without another glance at either of them, I walked away. Behind me, I could hear Octavia's voice trembling with manufactured tears. "Martin, Winona's really mad at me." Martin's voice was soft and patient, as if he were soothing a child. "It's okay. I'll make it up to you. I'll draw you something even better, all right?" Octavia's tone brightened instantly. "I knew it. Martin, you're the best." Chapter 6. The handover was finally done. On my last day at work, I invited my colleagues out for a farewell dinner. Thankfully, Martin wasn't around. At one point during the meal, someone suggested we call him to join us. I quickly waved it off, lying that I'd already promised to have dinner alone with Mr. Landon to thank him. That got me out of it. After dinner, we were all headed to a nearby bar. The place was across the street from a hotel. As we stepped out of the bar, laughing and a little tipsy, we saw Martin helping a very drunk Octavia toward the hotel entrance. Everyone froze for a moment, and then one of my colleagues, emboldened by the alcohol, nudged the others and joked loudly. Well, isn't that Mr. Landon? You're in a relationship and didn't tell us? Keeping secrets from your co-workers, huh? That's cold." The moment Martin saw me, he stiffened, his back going rigid. His voice sounded awkward and defensive as he stammered. It's not what you're thinking. I had a drink myself and I couldn't drive her home." But Octavia wasn't making things easier for him. She was clinging to him like a koala, her arms wrapped tightly around his neck, mumbling drunkenly, "Mr. Landon, Mr. Landon." The group broke into laughter, their teasing ramping up. "There's nothing to be embarrassed about," one of them said with a knowing grin. "We're all adults here. If it's mutual, who cares? The company doesn't have any rules against dating contracted artists, right?" "Exactly," another chimed in. "I think Octavia and Mr. Landon make a great couple. He's talented, she's gorgeous. Perfect match." Martin's whole body looked tense, but he didn't push Octavia away. His hand stayed firmly on her to keep her upright. "We're just colleagues," he muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. But the group wasn't buying it. "Come on, Mr. Landon," someone teased. "You're a big-name artist now. Don't be the type to mess around and not take responsibility. Octavia's a good girl, treat her right." "Exactly. Winana's been your colleague for years, and I don't think we've ever seen you give her a ride." "Yeah, seriously." Martin glanced at me briefly, his expression unreadable, before quickly looking away. "It's late," he said abruptly. "I should get going. You guys have fun." I took the opportunity to quietly excuse myself as well, saying goodnight to everyone and catching a cab home. A few of my female colleagues decided to leave too. As the car turned around, I caught one last glimpse of Martin. He had left the group behind and was helping Octavia into the hotel. A few minutes later, my phone buzzed with a message from Martin. "Octavia's drunk, it's her birthday. I'm just making sure she's okay. I'll head home after." I stared at the message for a moment before locking my screen. I didn't reply. Chapter 7. The next morning, when I woke up, Martin still hadn't come home. By then, my bags were already packed, and I was ready to catch the train back to my hometown. Before I left, I sent Martin a photo of the pregnancy test I'd found in his car, followed by short words. "We're done." Then, I changed my phone number, blocked him on every platform, and walked out of the apartment without a backward glance. A new chapter of my life was waiting. When my train pulled into the station, my dad was already waiting for me at the exit. As I opened the car door, I noticed something on the passenger seat, a bouquet of skewers. Barbecue meat, vegetables, the works, all wrapped up like a flower arrangement. "Dad, I thought you hated it when I ate barbecue in the car," I said, laughing as I climbed in. He glanced at me a little sheepishly. "Well, you kids like this stuff, don't you? I was too strict before. From now on, eat whatever you want." "Thanks, Dad. Oh, and by the way," he added casually, "I reactivated all your bank cards. Buy whatever you want." Back when I'd first chosen Martin, my dad had been so angry he'd frozen all my accounts and even threatened to cut ties with me. But I knew he'd never really meant it. Over the years, he'd quietly asked my mom to check on me and slipped me money through her whenever he could. My throat tightened, and I blinked back tears. "Dad, aren't you still mad at me for being so stubborn back then?" He sighed, his voice softer than I'd expected. "I wasn't a good father. I lost my temper too easily, always arguing with you over the smallest things. If I'd just been more patient, maybe you wouldn't have had to go through all this." His words hit me hard, and I quickly took a bite out of one of the skewers, using it as an excuse to look away. Coming home felt like a warm hug. Every day, there was a hot meal waiting, and the house was always clean and cozy. One lazy afternoon, I was lying on the couch, eating a slice of sweet, freshly picked watermelon while watching a movie. Life felt simple, peaceful, and good. The doorbell rang, breaking the quiet. I figured it was just my dad, probably forgetting his keys again. But when I opened the door, my good mood vanished instantly. It was Martin. How had he even found me? I'd only mentioned my hometown address to him once, years ago, back when I'd wanted him to meet my parents. He'd refused, saying he wouldn't come because my dad didn't like him. All these years, I'd been the only one making the effort to come back home. I tried to shut the door, but he stuck his foot in the frame. Winona, why did you break up with me? That pregnancy test was just an April Fool's joke from Octavia. I don't care about your excuses. I said coldly. Please leave, or I'll call the police. Winona, what are you doing here, bothering my daughter? I turned to see my dad standing behind me, his voice sharp and cutting. This was bad. My dad had never liked Martin, and his temper wasn't exactly mild. I quickly grabbed his arm. Dad, it's fine. I'll handle this. Let me talk to him. He gave me a long look before nodding reluctantly. But before leaving, he added firmly. Go to the family restaurant down the street. They all know you there. If anything happens, they'll step in. I promised him I'd be fine. Only after he called the restaurant to make sure they'd keep an eye on me did he finally let me go. Chapter 8. Winona, why did you block me? I've been trying to get in touch with you for days. Martin said, his voice almost frantic as he stepped closer. I already told you. I replied coldly, keeping my distance. I sent you a message. We're done. But Martin wasn't ready to let it go. He grabbed my hand suddenly, his grip tight and desperate. No, Winona. I don't agree to this. I pulled my hand away with a sharp tug, crossing my arms to put a barrier between us. His touch felt repulsive, like it left a stain on my skin. Whether you agree or not doesn't matter, Martin. It's over. We're over. Winona, listen to me. He pleaded, his voice cracking. That pregnancy test, it was just a stupid prank Octavia pulled. You have to trust me. I didn't respond, my face giving nothing away. Seeing I wasn't moved, he scrambled to explain further. That night with Octavia, I swear, I just dropped her off at the hotel and left. Look, I can prove it. He fumbled with his phone, pulling up an app and shoving it toward me. Here. This is my location history from that night. When I didn't even glance at the screen, he grew more desperate, practically thrusting the phone into my face. Winona, please. Just look at it. I went straight back to the studio after dropping her off. I even slept there. You don't believe me? The studio has security cameras, you can see for yourself. I pushed his phone aside, keeping my voice calm but firm. Martin, I don't care. I don't care where you were, what you did, or what you didn't do. It's none of my business anymore. We're not together, you don't get to decide that on your own. His voice rose, anger bleeding into his tone. You can't just walk away like this, Winona. Before I could respond, he lunged forward and grabbed my shoulders. His grip was hard, his fingers digging into my skin. Martin, let go of me. I said sharply, wincing at the pain. If you don't, I'll call for help. From the corner of my eye, I noticed a server watching us from across the room. He'd been keeping an eye on the situation since I arrived. Finally, he stepped in, pulling Martin away from me. Sir, you need to calm down. The server said firmly, standing between us. If you don't, we'll have to call the police. Let her go. He added, his tone unyielding. The server's intervention gave me a chance to step back, but Martin refused to let things go. His frustration boiled over, and before anyone could react, he lashed out, punching the server square in the face. The young man stumbled backward, hitting the ground with a thud. Gasps rippled through the room as several nearby staff rushed forward to subdue Martin. They held him back, restraining him as he struggled against their grip. I straightened, taking a deep breath to steady myself. Martin, if you don't leave right now, I'll call the police. I said, my voice low and steady. And believe me, you don't want a criminal record, do you? For a moment, his body sagged as if the weight of my words finally sank in. His expression softened, his voice quieter now, almost pleading. Winona, I know you're angry. I know you don't want to see me right now. But it's okay. I'll wait. I'll give you time to cool off, and I'll come back when you're ready to talk. I felt a wave of exhaustion wash over me. Just let him go. I told the staff, my tone flat. The crowd hesitated for a moment, but seeing that Martin had stopped fighting, they finally released him. Chapter 9. I took the server to the hospital since he was injured because of me. After explaining the situation to the doctor, he asked, "Are you Winona from class 3 in high school?" I was confused but answered honestly. "Yes, I was in class 3. I'm Nelson." The doctor happily removed his mask, and I recognized my high school deskmate. We hadn't seen each other in years. He looked even more refined now, and the white coat added to his charm. We had been deskmates for 3 years. In our senior year, I met Martin and was captivated by his looks and talent, so I applied to the same university as him. After that, Nelson and I lost touch. We were best friends back then. Who knew you'd disappear after starting university? How's your boyfriend? We broke up. Broke up? Nelson's eyes lit up with excitement. Doctor, can you catch up later? My face hurts. The server complained, and Nelson, embarrassed, put his mask back on and began the examination. It's nothing serious. Just take some anti-inflammatory medication and apply some ointment. Winona, it's been a long time. Let's exchange contact information. If he has any issues, he can ask me. Doctor, shouldn't you be adding my contact instead? The server grumbled, feeling neglected. Nelson laughed awkwardly. I'll add you after her. Winona, we haven't seen each other in years. Some old classmates wanted to get together. You should join us. Since I had decided to stay and work here, it was good to reconnect with old friends. Seeing other patients waiting, I quickly took out my phone and added him. Sure, let's plan something. After paying the medical fees and getting the medication, I gave the server some compensation. The young man blushed and refused, but I insisted, saying it was for his trouble. Take it. Consider it compensation for lost wages. He finally accepted, embarrassed. Just then, my phone buzzed with a message from Nelson, containing some medical advice. I passed it on to the server. The server looked puzzled and handed me his medical record. Isn't it written here? Feeling a bit embarrassed, I just smiled. Chapter 10. Since reconnecting with Nelson, we often chatted. Initially, he used patient-related excuses to talk, but as we got more comfortable, our conversations became more casual. We had always gotten along well, and if I hadn't met Martin, I might have ended up with Nelson. One day, Nelson invited me out, saying some classmates wanted to see me. I decided to treat them to show my sincerity, but Nelson said someone else was already hosting and told me to save it for next time. The dinner was at a 5-star hotel. Since I hadn't been back in a while, I took a longer route and got a bit lost. Nelson came out to meet me. Here, Winona. Sorry, the place has changed so much. I got lost. Have they been waiting long? No, a few are still on their way. I'll take you in. Just then, I heard Octavia's voice. Winona. I turned and saw her. She looked more haggard than before. Winona, I didn't know you and Mr. Landon were a couple. If I had known, I would have stayed away from him. Her voice was tearful. That pregnancy test was just a prank. Please don't misunderstand Mr. Landon because of me. What a fragile, broken jasmine flower. It has nothing to do with you. Martin and I are over. People started gathering to watch. Octavia, seeing the growing crowd, acted even more pitiful. Winona, I just don't want you to misunderstand me and Mr. Landon. I know you mind me being his assistant. I'll resign immediately if you forgive him. I hadn't even eaten, and she was already filling me with green tea. It ruined my mood for catching up with classmates. I ignored her and tried to leave. But she grabbed my arm. Winona. I cried out in pain, and Nelson rushed over, pulling her away. She stumbled back, looking at Nelson protectively standing in front of me, then feigned realization. No wonder you wouldn't listen to our explanations. You already have someone else. If that's the case, you should have told us. Mr. Landon would have understood. I wish you happiness. By doing this, you're hurting Mr. Landon and me. Winona, I always saw you as a sister. This really... She started sobbing. Classmates came out to see the commotion, recognizing me and Nelson, and started whispering. It's really Winona. Nelson liked Winona in high school. He organized this to meet her. I heard Nelson hasn't dated anyone because of Winona. If he stole her from her boyfriend, I'd believe it. But that girl implied Winona dumped her boyfriend for Nelson and blamed her. Two-faced? Chapter 11. Someone in the crowd muttered and everyone started laughing. Seeing the situation favoring her, Octavia cried louder. A kind woman comforted her and then came to me. This girl seems pitiful. If there's no love, just say it clearly. Don't let her suffer and lose her job. I couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity. Seeing the dirt sticking to me, I had to fight back. Have you resigned? Octavia seemed stunned by my question. Before she could answer, I waved my phone. We work at the same company. I have HR's number. Think carefully before you answer. Octavia bit her lip and shook her head. I continued. Did you really not know about my relationship with Martin? She hesitated, then shook her head again. I pulled up surveillance footage from my home, showing her and Martin entering and leaving. The day I came home, I accidentally cut my hand. When I went to disinfect it, I found the iodine was gone. I regularly updated the first aid kit, and Martin wasn't injured. It had to be someone who visited. The only visitor was Octavia. Neighbors confirmed it too. Mr. Landon is so nice. He always smiles at his little assistant. You entered my home. You couldn't have missed my relationship with Martin. Octavia stubbornly retorted. That doesn't mean I ruined your relationship. I already said it wasn't because of you. Are you deaf? The crowd laughed, understanding the situation. After all, they had seen many White Lotus characters in movies and TV. I've said it before. Martin and I are over. I don't care about your affairs. Tell Martin not to bother me, or I'll call the police. You're bullying me. I ignored her and pulled Nelson into the private room. If what they said was true, I hoped it wasn't too late. Nelson smiled at me and held my hand tighter. Octavia ran off, crying. Chapter 12. The next day, the girl taking over my job messaged me. Mr. Landon is angry. What should I do? I replied with a question mark. She sent a voice message, explaining that Martin and Octavia had a big fight. To make sure I understood, she sent a video. I secretly recorded it. Winona. Look. The video showed Martin and Octavia in the office. Martin was agitated and Octavia tried to comfort him but was pushed away. I didn't finish watching and closed it. Winona, what should I do? I'm scared. I still need to ask Mr. Landon some questions. I replied. Wait a few days. He's too angry to listen now. She thanked me. During this time, my relationship with Nelson grew stronger. One day, he invited me to a movie, but we ran into Martin at the mall. He looked even more haggard than before. Winona, I didn't know Octavia came to see you. We're not in contact anymore. Winona, come home. Nelson knocked his hand away. Mr. Landon, right? Winona mentioned you. We're schoolmates, but it's inappropriate to grab someone else's girlfriend. Where did you come from? She's my girlfriend. Martin, I told you, we're over. Winona, are you still mad? It's my fault. I'm sorry. Winona, forgive me. Hit me if it makes you feel better. He tried to grab my hand to slap his face, a tactic he often used when we dated. I always softened. Before he could touch me, Nelson stepped between us. Chapter 13. Martin stumbled, almost falling, but Octavia appeared and caught him. Seeing it was Octavia, Martin pushed her away and she fell. Martin, don't beg her. She doesn't really love you. Look, she already has someone new. I saw her secretly getting an abortion at the hospital. If she had nothing to hide, why didn't she tell you? Martin looked at me confused. Winona, is this true? I sneered and nodded. Martin broke down. Why, Winona? Is it true, like Octavia said, that you betrayed me? Martin, I told you. She's shameless and slandering us. I slapped Octavia, leaving both her and Martin stunned. She tried to hit back, but Nelson stopped her. I slapped her again. Winona. I slapped Martin too. Martin, I wanted to part peacefully, but you keep pushing. Let me be clear. I had surgery for an ectopic pregnancy. You were at the hospital with Octavia. You saw her admission form. You really don't know why I went alone? Martin's face changed as he realized something. Nelson immediately shielded me. You say you can't live without me because you realized your paintings don't sell after I left. Do you know why? You have some talent, but a city is full of talented people. They bought your work out of respect for my dad, because I'm his only daughter. Martin's face turned ashen, but he still argued. That's not true. They appreciate my work. Now they think I wronged you and am morally corrupt. If you forgive me, everything will be fine. Stop deceiving yourself, Martin. It's not true, Winona. You know I'm not like that. I wouldn't beg for fame. Martin, you're not the same person anymore. You used to be proud and aloof, but now you're not. You can't go back. I calmly exposed him, and Martin finally dropped his facade. Winona, if you come back now, I'll forget everything. You always wanted to marry me. If you come back, we'll get married immediately. Absolutely not. Winona, don't regret this. I never do. Martin finally left. Octavia tried to follow but was scolded away. Get lost. Chapter 14. A few days later, I trended online, accused of using my wealth to toy with feelings and to timing. My phone blew up with messages, so I turned it off for peace. But the next day, all the trending topics about me disappeared. My dad never asked about it, so it had to be Nelson. I can't take all the credit. I only got half removed. The rest was your dad. Seeing my dad in the living room, fanning himself and eating watermelon, I felt touched. I wanted to let things go, but they wouldn't let me be. Nelson, I have some dirt. Can you help me spread it? Of course. Anything for you. Soon, photos of Martin and Octavia's affair were everywhere online. Besides the gossip, there was a bombshell: Martin's plagiarism and fraud. I learned this after returning home. Martin's studio was rented with my dad's card for 5 years. After I returned, the landlord asked if I wanted to renew. I said no. The landlord then told me about some students causing trouble during a repair. The worker recorded it and sent it to the landlord, who didn't mention it to avoid affecting the renewal. After learning about our breakup, the landlord decided to tell me. I watched the video and the studio's surveillance, discovering that Martin had long exhausted his talent, indulging in wine and women. Octavia wasn't the first. When that didn't work, he started deceiving students. He tricked them into painting for him under the guise of mentorship, then modified their work as his own, exploiting their labor. He conned many students. But they were young and didn't know how to defend themselves. Sometimes he placated or intimidated them. I gathered the evidence and contacted some victims, quickly piecing together the story. Once posted, many students came forward in the comments, sharing their experiences. The topic trended for days. Nelson, you spent a lot. This has been trending for days, and the heat keeps rising. Winona, he's not worth my money. It's all organic. Karma. Martin was sued by the victims and fired by the company to avoid association. He couldn't find work in the industry and lost his savings. I had accepted Nelson's proposal and was planning a world tour. The end.